Welcome to Hockeywiztalks Podcast. Today I'll be analyzing the first round of the NHL playoffs. The first matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is perhaps the most predictable series in the Eastern Conference. The Lightning are 3-0 against the Blue Jackets this season, and the games weren't even close. The Lightning outscored the Blue Jackets 17-3 in the regular season, and even shut out the Blue Jackets in one game. There is some silver lining for the Blue Jackets though, meaning they did not have Matt Duchene and Ryan Dzingel in the lineup. Even with Matt Duchene and Ryan Dzingel in the lineup, the Blue Jackets are no match for the Lightning. Based on their previous track record, the Lightning should get past the Blue Jackets rather quickly. If the Blue Jackets want to win this series, they will need Sergei Bobrovsky to be flawless in goal. Because if he has a subpar performance, they will not win the series. The next matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Boston Bruins have owned the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs in the 2010s. Even though the last two series have went to Game 7, Boston always seems to prevail. The Bruins have a 3-1 record against the Maple Leafs this season, outscoring them 16-10. The Bruins are one of the teams in the league that match up great against the Leafs because of their play style. Boston always seems to have a well-structured team that is built from the net out. They play a tough, hard-nosed style that will wear out teams throughout the course of a 7-game series, while the Maple Leafs are a highly skilled team that depend on having puck possession in the neutral and offensive zone. When going up against the Bruins, they clog the neutral zone, making it difficult for the other team to gain entry to the zone with the puck. If the Maple Leafs want to beat the Bruins, they will need to adjust their play style. They need to get pucks deep and establish a hard forecheck on the defense going back to get the puck. For what it's worth, the Bruins are one of the hottest teams in NHL in the second half, while Toronto is one of the worst defensive teams in the second half. If the Maple Leafs continue to play subpar defensively, they will not beat Boston. The next matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes. On paper, this should be an easy matchup for the Washington Capitals, but the game isn't played on paper, it is played on the ice. The Carolina Hurricanes are a young, hungry team that will never quit. Under new head coach Rod Brind'Amour, the Hurricanes won't be an easy team to beat in a 7-game series. The Washington Capitals swept the season series against the Hurricanes this season, outscoring the Hurricanes 16-9. The Washington Capitals are favorites to win this series because they are the defending Stanley Cup champions. But don't underestimate the Carolina Hurricanes, because they are a hard team to play. The last matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins are not the same team that won back-to-back cups. Even though they have the same core of players, their depth is not as good and their defense is suspect. Also, Matt Murray has been quite inconsistent this season. The New York Islanders, on the other hand, have been the biggest surprise this season. After losing John Tavares in free agency, everyone thought the New York Islanders would be one of the worst teams in the league. However, under head coach Barry Trotz, the Islanders proved they can be as good as any team in the league. The biggest difference in the Islanders this season has been their goaltending. Robin Lehner and Thomas Greiss were both viewed as fringe starters at best before the season. During this season, the tandem helped guide the Islanders to the lowest goals against in the league. Both teams have won twice in this season's series. The Penguins outscored the Islanders 13-12 in the 4 games they played. The Pittsburgh Penguins have a huge advantage because of the playoff experience, but the Islanders have actually been the better team this season, so it's going to be an interesting matchup. And now a word from our sponsor. The first matchup in the Western Conference is between the Calgary Flames and the Colorado Avalanche. The Calgary Flames were the best team in the Western Conference this season, but that was in the regular season. The Flames seem to be one of the teams that perform different in the playoffs, while the Colorado Avalanche, on the other hand, are one of the teams that get better in the playoffs. After all, the Avalanche were the same team that pushed the Nashville Predators to 6 games last season. In the season series, the Flames have won all 3 games, outscoring the Avalanche 14-10. A huge question mark for both teams is goaltending, as both teams have been using a tandem this season, but in the playoffs that won't work, as you need one proven number 1 goalie to make a deep run. The Calgary Flames get the edge in this series because they are the better overall team. They have a deeper group of forwards and defense, and for that reason, they should come out on top. The next matchup in the Western Conference is between the Nashville Predators and the Dallas Stars. The Nashville Predators are one of the best teams in the entire NHL. With the additions to Mikael Granlund, Wayne Simmons, and Brian Boyle, the Predators have incredible depth on offense. On top of the already deep group of forwards, the Predators have one of the best defenses in the NHL and an all-star caliber goalie. The Dallas Stars may have made the playoffs, but Jamie Benn had his worst statistical season since the 2012-2013 campaign. Luckily for the Stars, a few young players have stepped up, such as Robbie Hintz, Miro Heiskanen, and Jason Dickinson. In the 5 games this season, the Predators have a 3-2 edge over the Stars. Both teams have scored 14 goals apiece. Stars actually shut out the Predators in 1 game. The Nashville Predators have the edge in their 7-game series because of their style of play. The Predators are one of the teams that are built for the playoffs, so they like to intimidate their opponents. With so many young players in the lineup for Dallas, this gives Nashville a supreme advantage. The next matchup in the Western Conference is between the St. Louis Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. The St. Louis Blues have been one of the hottest teams in the last month of the season. The Jets were in first place just a week ago, but due to their play of late, have dropped to second in their division. A huge reason why the St. Louis Blues have been so good of late is because of the play of Jordan Binnington. Binnington has been one of the best goalies in the second half of the season. He has a 24-5-1 record with a 1.89 GAA and a .927 save percentage. The Winnipeg Jets will need Patrik Laine to produce if they want to make a deep run in the playoffs. Laine took a major step back this season. Somehow, he put up worse stats than his rookie year. After making it to the conference finals last year, the Jets have all the pressure on them, but it won't be easy to make it back to the conference finals as they face a red-hot St. Louis Blues team in the first round. This matchup is pretty even on paper, so we will have to see how the series unfolds. The last matchup in the Western Conference is between the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Sharks and Golden Knights faced each other last year in the playoffs, and Vegas won the series in 6. Despite being severe underdogs last season, they managed to make it to the finals behind the goaltending of Marc-Andre Fleury. Since then, the Golden Knights have improved their roster tremendously with the addition of Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, and Paul Stastny. The San Jose Sharks have a history of being chokers in the playoffs. Will this season be any different? Despite adding Erik Karlsson and Gustav Nyquist, the Sharks don't match up well against Vegas. The two teams split the season series, but the Golden Knights outscored the Sharks 18-10. The two teams have massively different play styles. The Sharks like to run and gun, while the Golden Knights like to play a bruising, grinded-out style. The Golden Knights have a slight edge in this series because their playstyle is more suited for the playoffs. This is going to be a good series on paper, and is personally the one series I am looking forward to. In my next podcast, I'll be updating you on the first round of the NHL playoffs.